You're listening to the God Life Culture Podcast, where faith
and what's trending collide. Welcome to the latest episode of the God Life Culture Podcast. This is Eddie.
What's up, everyone? This is Miguel, and we are so thankful that you are tuned in for another episode of the God Life Culture Podcast. If this is your first time listening or watching us, we want to say welcome to our podcast. We hope that you enjoyed today's conversation. We hope that you are encouraged and motivated and blessed. If you are a returning listener, we want to say welcome back. Thank you for coming week after week for brand new episodes and just taking this journey with us. We hope everyone is enjoying their summer.
Yes.
Right? We definitely are. And we hope that you are just getting out there, enjoying the good weather, and doing things with your family, doing things with your friends, taking advantage of the time that you have. People are off sometimes in the summer. Kids are off. Whether you're in college and you have some time off as well, definitely make a plan to get things done.
Yeah.
Right. So sometimes if you don't make a plan, things don't get done. Right. So sometimes you have to schedule times that you're just going to be productive, right? And times where you're going to just have fun. Sometimes you have to schedule that in to make sure it happens.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that, because especially if you're someone who doesn't get the summer off, it's just that in the middle of doing so many different things, you are like, oh yeah, maybe next weekend I'll do a fun thing, and it's like the whole summer passes by and you did one maybe fun thing. So I think that it's always very important to try to plan ahead, to think of stuff for you, especially as a parent. You'll do fun thing for the kids. You'll go to the park and you'll do pool days and beach days and stuff like that, but then you have to do like parent things. Leave them kids with somebody with your mom or your mother-in-law, and try to do stuff. So I'm gonna try to see. I think that's something that you have to like try to plan for, because everything else is so self-encompassing that you forget about yourself.
And you make time for the things that you love and the things that you value. We hear that all the time, and I think a lot of times we can get so caught up in life that we forget we have to stop and enjoy moments. We have to stop and enjoy seasons of our life, and whatever needs to get shifted, whatever needs to be moved, when you do it the right way and you plan accordingly and you schedule things, it works out. You're not neglecting. You're not neglecting responsibilities. You're not like quitting things, right? You do things wisely and it'll get done. But sometimes you just have to schedule your fun. You have to schedule the things you want to do, the goals you want to reach. Make time for it. So we have, weeks left in this summer season. Definitely make time for things that you've been wanting to do and haven't had the time to do. Things you've been, wanting to try, foods you've been wanting to try, restaurants you've been wanting to go to. If you can't take a vacation, then what are things locally that you can do as well? Sometimes we think, if I can't go to Bora Bora, if I can't go to Fiji, if I can't go to Turks and Caicos, I'm not doing nothing. That's what I want to do. Sometimes find a new spot in your local, town, or if you can drive, a few hours away, try something local like that and have, an experience, have a moment.
One of the things that my wife and I have been doing are like festival type things. So you have like food festivals, like all the different food vendors and trucks. We've been to like sunflower festivals. Strawberry festivals is one of the things on our list that we're going to try to go to next. Sometimes it doesn't have to be this super mega elaborate thing. You go, you pay a little entrance fee sometimes. Sometimes you don't have to. It's free. You only pay for like stuff that you're going to consume or buy. And it's a really cool and fun time you could do with your significant other. You could do with your group of friends. You could take the kids. Don't always leave the kids at home. But I think that is always very important also for parents to do fun things with adults. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you have the ability, you have people that you trust, that you can leave your kids with, then you can go do adult things, then go ahead and do it. But like you said in the top of the hour, it's important to try to plan those ahead. It's especially important because festivals like these aren't all year round. So you have like food truck festivals, stuff like that. It's like maybe like for 2 weeks in a month, or like a strawberry festival is happening for 3 weeks. So it's like, if you're not looking these things up ahead of time and planning for it, you're going to miss it. You're going to be like, oh, I want to go to strawberry food festival or whatever. And that happened 4 weeks ago, but you missed it. So definitely plan ahead. Pivoting a little bit, I work with a lot of different teams, at work, in church, in my church community, in different places. And one of the things that I often see happen sometimes that I wonder, is that your place to do that, or is it the right time to do that? Is when people speak on behalf of someone else, so it's kind of like the idea of, they made an observation and then they're like, oh, I noticed this for X, Y, and Z reasons about so-and-so person. So is there ever a right time for you to speak on the behalf of someone else? What do you think?
That's tricky. I think off the bat, I say no, right? Off the bat, I think without processing or thinking it through, coming up with all these different explanations, I say no, right? Let people speak for themselves, right? I think now when you look at things even biblically, the Bible speaks about speaking up for those who can't.
Yes.
So I think that has its context and has its, situation, which I don't think we're referring to. You know what I mean? When it comes to speaking up on behalf of others, I think, right off the bat, you have to have their permission. I think you have to have their okay, right? And their knowledge of, hey, I'm about to have a conversation with this individual. Would you like me to share your thoughts with them? Or would you like me to share your feelings on this topic with them? And make them aware of, I'm going to tell them what you said, or I'm going to share with them what you're telling me. So I think there needs to be that type of permission, acknowledgement, and awareness right from the beginning, if you're going to do that. I think, for you to speak on behalf of someone else, there are certain things that get lost in translation. There are certain things that get lost in delivery. And there are certain things that can't be described or expressed as good as the person who feels that way.
Yeah.
I can add my own sauce and my own flavor and flair to something that someone else told me, but that's not exactly what they meant, not exactly how they meant it, not exactly how they meant to say it. And here I am now giving input or giving thoughts or giving ideas or information about someone in a way that they wouldn't have delivered it in that way.
Yeah.
And now this is, whether they gave you the permission to speak or even if they didn't, So I think if you're giving someone permission to speak on your behalf, know that that's a possibility that can go wrong, right? But now if permission is not given and someone is just speaking for someone else and including them, right? Because a lot of times, I've seen this where someone may feel a certain way and they're not necessarily telling me that they feel that way, but they're maybe bringing up about how other people are feeling this way.
Yeah.
And then when you kind of get down to it and start asking questions, you realize, you're talking about not for yourself, you're talking about other people. Now, do they know that you're telling me? Is it like, are they okay with that? Right. Or even vice versa. It could be they're posing it as it's other people when in reality they feel that way, right? Oh, you're the one with this opinion. You're the one with those feelings. You're the one with those thoughts, not necessarily the other person.
Yeah.
So I think it's a slippery slope when you start speaking up for other people because, again, you speak up for someone else and you're talking to me about that person. Well, I can't address that person now. So now I'm talking to you and responding to you, but you're not the one that had this initial feeling or thought. So now are you going to go back now and have that conversation with them and fill them in on what I said? And there's further opportunity for the message to be lost, things to be added, things to be subtracted, and the message just gets blurred.
No, I agree with that. I think that there are situations, I agree with what you said. I also think that there are situations where you do have to speak up for someone. Yeah. Like we've been in situations, I've been like on community board meetings and stuff like that where there's someone that knows that someone is in need for something,
absolutely,
but that person doesn't want to tell nobody. They're very embarrassed, they're very like whatever, and then you wind up finding out someone's having a financial crisis. So then you have a group of people, even like your friends, like, oh, I just heard that our friend so and so is going through something financially. I think we should just let's get something together. Let's do a compra. How you say compra in English?
Grocery shopping.
You do grocery shopping for them, or let's put some money together for them. I'm speaking on the behalf of someone that didn't ask me to speak on their behalf, doesn't know that I'm doing this, but it's for the benefit of them. And at first it may seem like, oh my God, you're like a little overstepping a boundary, but they're in need. Their house is about to go in foreclosure. closure, or it's winter and they have no heat, or they have no electricity, or they have kids but don't have any food, and it's just that the embarrassment isn't allowing them to like ask for help. If I find out about a situation like that, then we have to do something about it, and in the most graceful way possible.
Yeah.
You know, we're not gonna we're not gonna post a bulletin, you know, so and so is in need. They don't want to tell us. No, that is horrible. But there is a grace and a way to do things. I do think, though, on the flip side of that, when you are speaking on the behalf of someone, especially when it's not a life and death situation, it's not someone that's contemplating suicide, it's not somebody that's, you know, doing anything for self-harm, it's not going through a financial crisis or anything like that. It just has to do, you know, it's like if you're working in the accounting department, and someone in customer service, you know, you feel like, oh, they have too much stuff happening. Mm-hmm. Let me speak on their behalf to the owner or the CEO and be like, don't you think that Becky in customer service has too much stuff going on? And it's like, it's not your place to do that. It's not your place to do that, especially if she's thriving. She maybe likes to be busy and stuff like that. Or maybe she understands the circumstances where the department hasn't grown yet. So at the moment, you know, she's like, I'm just gonna like, you know, buckle my bootstraps and be like, oh, I'm gonna have to do this, you know, for the time being. Especially, you know, I look at it like in the business world, you know, sometimes people like they bite the bullet because end of year review is coming up, and they're gonna use that at the end of the year review to be like, I need a pay raise. Yeah. So you're coming over here, you're messing up their blessing by pointing something out that they didn't ask you to point out, when in their mind they're thinking about, you know what, I'm gonna do this, but when the end of the year review comes in, I'm gonna speak to my manager about this, and I'm going to require a pay raise because they can see that I can do this job effectively, but I deserve more money. But here you are, a concerned citizen, speaking on the behalf of somebody, and you messing with their bag. Like sometimes it's kind of like, you have to be very mindful, where especially if the person even if the person had a moment of venting and was like, oh, I just feel a little bit overworked, there's just so much because I had to run from here, from this and do that or whatever, it's not your place. Mm-hmm. What is your place to do is to be like, do you really feel that way? Maybe we should speak to somebody. Have you spoken to someone about it? The idea of you going and speaking on the behalf of somebody else is just gonna convolute the message. Mm-hmm. You know, and in the most simplest form that I see this is when we did the As For Me and My House conference with Priscilla, you know, we had people that submitted questions, and there were some people that asked the questions themselves, and there were other people that just submitted questions, so we had to ask the questions, or we had other people ask the questions on their behalf. But Priscilla had questions about their questions. So it was like, oh, someone had a concern, they wanted advice on something. So we asked the question, and Priscilla's like, oh, okay, but then what about X? Or where is the context for this? We couldn't deliver that for them. So then Priscilla's like, okay, I guess I can give an answer, but I don't know the whole story. So when you go to vouch for somebody and you're speaking on behalf of somebody else, you come to me with a concern about somebody else, I'm going to ask you questions. You don't have the answers to those questions. Mm-hmm. So now you got to go back to the other person and be like, oh, like it creates this ping pong thing that is unnecessary if the person would have simply spoken for themselves. Yeah. Sometimes your friend needs encouragement. Mm. If they are really in a situation where they're complaining about something, or they want something to be done better or to be worked out differently, it's your responsibility to be like, I think you should speak to somebody. Mm-hmm. If they're a type of person who is shy, you can be like, do you want me to go with you? Like, we can, you know, I'll support you. I'll start off the conversation and be like, oh, I was speaking to Miguel, and, you know, he told me he had a couple of concerns. Miguel, why don't you share your concerns or whatever? You know, but the idea of you speaking on the behalf of somebody else, even if they're your friend, even if they're your coworker, even if they're your partner in crime, can sometimes get very muddy because you are not that person.
Yeah. And I think it's important to, like you said earlier, to recognize sometimes people just need time to vent or space to be honest, right? Mm-hmm. And when you offer that space for someone, or you offer that time where, you know, that person is opening up and being vulnerable and transparent with you, you shouldn't weaponize that and use it against them in the way of now going to someone else, right, to share with them the thoughts of that individual or the thoughts of your friend, or what your friend is going through or experiencing, right? So again, if there is no permission granted, that is a confidential moment, right? That is a private moment. That's something where a friend was just sharing their heart with you. A friend was just sharing how they feel. You shouldn't now go and run with that information, or you shouldn't assume things based off of that conversation, right? So, someone is talking to you about being overwhelmed, or, they're having a moment where they feel like they're just doing so much in a lot of different areas of their life.
Yeah.
And that. And then you're in a conversation with someone else, and that individual may be an individual of power, authority, and they want to offer, your friend a position, or they want to offer them a new opportunity. And now you're there and you're like, I know they feel overwhelmed. I know they feel overworked. I know they're going through this. I'm going to say, no, it's a bad idea. So now you step in and you say, no, I wouldn't do that because I know they're feeling overwhelmed with what they have. They have a lot going on. And you just maybe ruined an opportunity for that individual because you spoke out of turn. You spoke on someone else's behalf. You can't assume, right, that because that's what your friend told you, they're not going to want this opportunity, right? And assumptions, I think, is very dangerous when it comes in friendships like that, right? When you just begin to assume certain things, or assume what that individual would want, or what that individual, would need in certain moments, or what they're wanting to do, not wanting to do, when you speak up for them and make decisions on their behalf, or even just influence other people to then not ask them or not offer that opportunity, it's wrong. There are certain moments that are meant to be confidential and private, and I was just venting to you about how I felt in the moment. That was just a momentary thing. I don't feel like that every day. It's not all the time, but it was just a moment. I needed you as a friend. I don't need you as a person to go and speak up for me and go and let other people know, that they just not to overwhelm me, not to approach me, or not to bring certain things to me because I'm going through something, right? Like, I think, again, there's contexts and situations where, as friends, and maybe if you're a part of a friend group and one friend opens up to you about something, I do believe there are moments where then you can bring that up to your friend group. Like, listen, this individual is going through something. They opened up to me, maybe not share all the details, right? But just say, I think they need some extra love. I think they need some extra support right now. I think they need a time away. Let's go and let's plan a trip, right? So I think there are contexts and situations where it's okay to say, hey, this person spoke to me. I think we should do this. But now, do I need to go and now divulge all the details and divulge all the information and start, all of these things? Probably not.
Yeah. No, yeah. And I think that, there's nothing wrong with, if you're on a hiring team, for example, and one of the candidates that is being considered is someone just throwing out the concern of, I think this person would be a great candidate, but they actually have a lot on their plate at the moment. So I think that when you speak to them, just ask them about that. Ask them about, how do they feel? Are they able to juggle all the responsibilities? Do they feel like they have to let somebody go? There's nothing wrong with that approach of looking at it from a perspective of, okay, you're about to give somebody an additional thing to do. So then just have the conversation with them about if they fully understand the big picture of, they're going to have to add something else to their plate. Do they need to remove something? And if so, do we have somebody that can replace that? There's nothing wrong with taking it from that approach as well. I just think that when you are complaining on the behalf of somebody else, or you are stopping opportunities from happening for somebody else because you feel that that person is X, Y, and Z, it can come from the most loving place. It can come from the most concerning place as a good friend or as a good person, but it is wrong for you to do that. That is not your place to do that. You have to be very mindful with that or whatever. And, like I said, always encourage whoever is the person to speak for themselves. It's very important for you to not try to be everyone's superhero, to be everybody's Superman. Years ago, I put myself in a very doesn't say crappy. I guess crappy is a good word. In a very crappy situation because I spoke on the behalf of someone else. And that had a whole big snowball effect where at the end of it, the person that I spoke to was like, you know what? I appreciate that you spoke for me, but this got kind of messy. So I'm just going to say I didn't speak to no one about this and I no longer agree with what you said. And it's kind of like you put your neck on the line for people because you're being good hearted or because, oh no, I'm very vocal. So I'll speak on their behalf or whatever. But then things pan out a certain way and then they're looking at you like, well, I don't want to deal with this mess. And then you're left with your hands dirty. So, you never know how a situation will turn out. So don't speak on the behalf of somebody. Be there to support support them, be there to encourage to speak for themselves. If a situation comes up where you have to defend them, for whatever reason, then you can give a little voice of opinion. But to try to make decisions or express concerns on the behalf of somebody else when that's not your place, don't do it.
It's a problem. Yeah. And I also think of like the individual who says, can you go and talk to them for me? Can you go and tell them I don't dare? Or can you go and, they, even if it's conflict resolution or things like that, they don't want to speak up for themselves. They don't want to defend themselves, and they find it easier to have someone else go on their behalf. If you are that friend, right? It's like there are certain things I can maybe go and speak up for you for and just, mention you, right? But there are other moments where, no, this is something you need to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So maybe you are that friend that needs to be the example to, your other friend and that individual, and let them know, you have a voice. You have a voice. You need to be the one, because these are your thoughts. Yeah. These are your ideas. These are the things. This is your situation. You need to speak up for yourself.
Absolutely.
And that's not you being rude or mean or not a good friend. That is you recognizing that I can enable this person to constantly be in a place where they don't speak up for themselves, where they are shy, they're timid, where they, feel like they don't have a voice, or I can be the individual that inspires them and pushes them to speak up for themselves. And I move them to say, no, like, this is my thought. This is my idea. Or I don't like the way I'm being treated. Or, you hurt me when you said that. Sometimes you need to be that person to tell the other individual, speak up for yourself.
Yeah.
Go and tell them how you feel. Go and let them know what's going on.
Yeah. And I think that people need to also learn to realize, like self-evaluate and understand when they're being manipulative by using their friend or their coworker as their attack dog. So it's kind of like the idea of, I'm not going to say it, but I know that if I mention it to so-and-so, they'll say it for me.
Yeah.
So that person will get the heat. That person will get the, have to go through all the motions and all the loops and hurdles and all the other stuff so that you could reap the benefit of something that you were too timid or too afraid or too coward to go ahead and address.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important where if you have a friend who's a ride or die who will take a bullet for you, that you don't manipulate and take advantage of that situation for your benefit. I think that's grimy. That's not a good friend.
Yeah. So definitely if you are in that situation, because there's both sides, if you are the individual that always finds yourself telling someone else to go and do something or go and speak up for you or go and let that person know and all of that, be encouraged today to speak up for yourself.
Yeah.
Be encouraged today to use your voice, right? No one can say it like you can say it. No one can do it like you can. No one can give your input and your ideas and express your emotions and feelings the way you can. That is unique to you. So maybe you need to be encouraged today to go forth and speak up for yourself. And if you are the other person, if you are the friend that is always being spoken to and always being asked, can you please go and speak to this person? Can you please go? Can you go? Can you tell them for me? Right? Be the individual that encourages your friend to speak up for themselves. Yes. Be the individual that doesn't allow your friend to crumble or allow your friend to, basically not have the confidence enough to go and speak up for themselves. They are really the only ones that can deliver that message. They are really the only one that can say it the way they truly mean it, know? And if you are the individual that, loves to speak on other people's behalf without letting them know, and you love to make assumptions and conclusions based on things you hear or a simple conversation, or maybe you are saying these things because you feel that way. Problem, right? I think it's very important to analyze and self-evaluate and see, is this, is the thing I'm saying, am I saying it because I truly care for my friend? Or am I saying it because I feel something similar or I feel the same way and I don't want to say it's me, so I'd rather put it on my friend.
Using them as a shield.
Yeah, self-evaluate, self-reflect, and see, why am I saying this, right? Why am I speaking up for this individual?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with everything you said.
Yeah. So we thank you for tuning in today, and we hope that today's conversation motivates you to either speak up or shut up. Right? And we hope that you are encouraged and inspired today to build the confidence to speak up and help others have that confidence as well, and encourage others to use their voice and to express themselves and all of that. So definitely we hope that you are enjoying your summer, that you are doing some great things out there. Don't forget, schedule that time for fun, schedule that time to go out, schedule that family time. Don't let the summer go by without doing some things on that list and doing the things that you love to do. Be sure to follow us on all our social media at Facebook and Instagram, YouTube, God Life Culture Podcast. Check us out on all those platforms. Subscribe, and we will catch you on our next episode.
Yeah, so thank you once again for tuning into the latest episode of the God Life Culture Podcast. That's God Life Culture. Until next time.
See ya.
Bye.